this is, you know what, this is a lot more complicated than just
It is.
doing it when we used to do it on what's that thing called again?
Cast.
Cast, that's the one. Cast is a lot better. All right, this was confusing. I had to jump up and down the place, and yeah. I messed up. Okay, I messed up, man. I was asleep. All right, this is why it was so late. I was asleep.
Beauty sleep, mate. Beauty sleep.
I wouldn't call it beauty sleep, man. I was off work today, like, because I was a bit ill. Like, you know what I mean? My health has been up and down, man, the last 3 weeks or so. So I couldn't sleep, man. So I called in sick today.
I can't take you seriously with that picture, man.
All right, let me explain the picture. Right? So this was when I was away. Like, nobody knows where I was, but I was away, right? And I'd just been out the night before, and I was a mess. I was a state. A lot of drinking happened. This was when, like, pots, I was drinking the wine and the Haribo mix.
Yeah.
So Max messaged me when I woke up, right? And Max was having his own party in Australia. So we're sending pictures back and forth and whatnot. And this is the picture he sent me, right? And he's like, listen, he's like, when you go on Potts' preview, this is the picture I want you to take, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. So I took a screenshot of it, hence why you see the little bit of black there, right? Because I took a screenshot of it. And I was going to have it on the pod's preview, but I already had an avatar and the avatar wouldn't change. So I thought, you know what, since I'm hosting tonight, I'm going to have it as my avatar. Funny enough, he's joining us in like 15 minutes or whatnot. So, yeah. So I finally managed to get that ugly, hideous picture up. And look
Love it, mate. Love it.
That's the story behind the picture, and that's the story behind me being an hour and 45 minutes late. I didn't sleep a wink last night, and I was catching up on some sleep. So sue me, you pricks. Sue me. I saw all the messages you were having. Wait until Max gets on here. I've got a few things for him. But
we have to entertain ourselves somehow, mate.
Yeah, we did.
why don't one of you fuckers just call me? You've got my number, man.
So if you was asleep, would you even heard it?
Yeah,
Yes, I
I
would've
sent you
heard
a voice note, man. But
No, voice notes and shit don't work because my notifications are off of most of my apps, bro. You need to call me. You have my number, man.
All right, mate.
Next time, just fucking call me, man. My phone's always on. But anyway, like, I digress and so and whatnot.
It does bring the whole thing that this is actually Max's voice. You know, he's put on a black man's voice. So that picture makes it worth it while.
This is I am Max's clone today. I've even got the picture. See, so now whoever truly thinks, right, that Max is like, you know, an impression of me, this is it. Like, he genuinely is. It's all true. Right? Believe the rumors. All right, Max is just putting on the voice, and then he's going to have like his magic David Blaine act when he appears on the screen, and yeah, he's going to come and do two voices.
Give it the old ventriloquist.
Going to do two voices, but listen. To the two live watchers, welcome to this madness. My apologies for being late. Okay, like I've just mentioned, it's been a rough 24 hours, and I can only apologize to the people who actually wanted to watch this. To you fucks, yeah, I don't care. You lot can wait. Like, you know what I mean? But welcome, boys. Scunny, Potts, as always. Thank you for joining me, man. How you boys doing?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good.
all good, bruv. All good. Now that you've woken up, I'm looking forward to this, man.
Oh Jesus, yes, I needed it, man. If you see my face right now, I look like crap, man. 24/7. See the 6'3" stop sign, bro. It's good. The weather's good up here, man.
The stop sign, man. That was quality. Remember that the other day. Stop sign. Even he was like, "What?"
Yeah, man. The guy's tall, but all skin and bone, man. Just skinny and shit, man.
Well, I always said Max looks like an AIDS victim.
Man, is it bad AIDS or good AIDS? Surely it's
I don't
bad
know.
AIDS.
I ain't got that close to him.
Oh man,
Oh,
it started already.
Anyway, so this is what we're gonna do, man. We're gonna talk about the youth, man, because, and the reason why I want to do that is because if you looked at the Arsenal's summer transfer, right, the summer transfer activity, man, it basically was geared towards giving the youth a chance, right? And I think we can all agree that when Project Youth began, it was up and down, right? It was up and down. But under Arteta, we're starting to see a sort of different sort of mentality amongst the youth. So a lot of them are playing like, you know what, I belong here. And a lot of them still have, they still got to make big steps. So what have you guys made about the youth so far this season?
Well, we haven't really seen much of them. I think there's only been Nelson, Willock, Saka, and Martinelli and Guendouzi that we've really seen of the youth players. And Saka, and I would say Saka and Martinelli have been probably the two best out of all of them. Saka's playing in a position that he shouldn't really be playing in. I know he used to play there in the youth squad when he was a I say youth team, but he's, when he's a bit younger than what he is now. What is he, 12? So probably about 10 or 11. He was in that youth team. So it's, I think he's done really well. I think he's hard to replace for me personally. Martinelli is just breathtaking. I can't think of any other word to say about him. And with Guendouzi and Willock's getting his chances. I don't know. Me personally, I don't think he's right up there yet, but time will tell on that one. Maybe another season or two, it might completely change for him. Guendouzi had a great season last year. This year he's been hit and miss. He's had a couple of good times and not so much. He's been a bit fally on the floor a lot. And Nelson, I'm just not convinced. That's all.
Not convinced by that. I don't think most people are convinced by Nelson, but considering the faith that Arteta has shown in him, Potts, do you think that Nelson can turn it around and we'll be here in a year's time ago and you know what? We hold our hands up, we were wrong about him?
It's an interesting one because I actually feel like Arteta's kind of switched that faith now from Nelson over to Saka. I think that there's three, in my opinion, that I think can make it at Arsenal. And what I mean by make it at Arsenal is in have a first team run and a career at the club. And that is Martinelli, Guendouzi and Saka. I'm still not convinced by Joe Willock and Reece Nelson. I think Joe Willock's on the cusp of looking like something special. But then I see him the next game and he hardly touches the ball. For me, Joe Willock, I keep saying throughout the season, I keep switching my mind about he's strong. No, he's weak. He's lightweight. No, actually, he can hold his own. There's so many inconsistencies with Joe Willock, I think. But those three players, for me, I look like straight away they have a future at the club. Now, with Guendouzi, I think what's interesting is I said a few weeks ago that he needs a role model. He needs somebody alongside him, like a leader, to put his arm around him and say, look, keep your head. You've got bags of potential. Stop doing the stupid stuff you're doing because I love your passion, but it's going to get you in trouble one day. What has actually I've seen in the last few games is that I don't think he's needed one of those because there's younger players around him now and he sees himself, although he's the same age or near the same age, he sees himself as trying to help them out. And that's what I've noticed the last few games of Guendouzi and why he's played a little bit better. We've needed him the last two games. I think the Bournemouth game, I thought he was outstanding. But the Chelsea situation, that was a perfect sub for me. I just think that when you go down to the situation that we did with 10 men, when he came on, that's why he had such a good game because we weren't in a position where we needed somebody with a cool head. We needed somebody to give 110% like the rest of the team were. And I think Guendouzi has had a good season. I know a lot of people give him a lot of stick, but people seem to forget how young he still is. I think he's 20 just. And I look at the situation there and think maybe people don't see Matteo Guendouzi anymore as an 18, 19, 20-year-old. And maybe that's a positive. Maybe that's a good thing. To answer your question on Nelson, I do believe Arteta's seen something we haven't in training because for him to straight away look at him and maybe look and say, I did a lot for Sterling. Maybe this is the guy I can do a lot for. I just feel now on the pitch, the fans have really taken to Martinelli and Saka more. And that's why I think we're seeing them to shine as such now.
Nelson's dropped out though, hasn't he? He's gone down the pecking order again. The first couple of games he was getting in. Now Teta was picking him over Pepe. But now that seems to have just gone, hasn't he? I know he's had he's had
a knock, innit? Yeah.
He's had a knock, but I just don't see him getting back into the team. I just can't see it.
No, see, I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you because I think with Nelson, Arteta has seen something in Nelson that he hasn't seen in Pepe just yet, and that's work rate. in terms of going forward and in terms of putting the ball in and beating a man and whatnot, that's not Nelson. He hasn't got that just yet, but you know that he's gonna bump, he's gonna run up and down, he's gonna work hard, he's gonna track back, he's gonna help his fullback, he's going to do everything that Arteta says. That's what Nelson has for him at the minute, and I think that if he wasn't injured, he would have started maybe against Chelsea. I think he would have started against Chelsea.
I don't know. I thought Pepe had a good game against Chelsea, to be fair.
You know what? I gave him a -1.
I think that was harsh.
I gave him a -1. I don't know. I was annoyed like half of the game, man. My judgment wasn't the best, but I gave him a -1. But one player that I want to touch on, because we're gonna touch on these dudes individually, and that's Guendouzi. Guendouzi, we don't appreciate him for what he is, and that is he is an annoying, petulant child. If he was playing for the opposition, right, we would hate him. But we don't appreciate him for what he is and what he does. And he is a disruptor. When there is chaos, there's no player better than this guy. But he can play as well. Let's not forget he was asked to play the Torreira role against Bournemouth. And he did that. He was in on Gosling really quickly, snapping into tackles, completed all his dribbles, nutmegs here, escaping the press here, goes down a little too easy. So, boys, why don't we appreciate this 20-year-old for the talent and for the disruptor that he is? Potts, I'm going to start with you.
I think it's a great question, and it's something I've always asked. I mean, we all know Fergus doesn't rate him, and it seems that he can never have a good game. Whenever I speak to Fergus, he just seems to think that Matteo Guendouzi has been okay. Even against Bournemouth, he said to me that it was okay.
Hold on, Potts. Man, the man, Fergus, half of the time, he can't even say his own name. So you can't, so you can't exactly expect this dude to make a right judgment on the 19, 20-year-old man. If you can't even say his own name, right? There you go. My bad. But carry on, bro. Carry on.
But yeah, and to be fair, it isn't just him. There's a few people that seem to say that Guendouzi's just lost his head. Let's not forget that 15 years ago, we weren't saying that about Martin Keown and the kind of passion that we see from Guendouzi from younger players that we had in the Invincibles season. We had players like that were horrible to play against, that nobody liked in their side. And Matteo Guendouzi is one of them, which I've always liked. I love that bit of bite. I love the passion that he shows. Sometimes he can, that's why I said he needs that kind of arm around his shoulder, because he can lose his head. But I don't actually mind that about him. I just feel that people get frustrated with him because at the moment, some of the stuff he's doing is kind of regular. So when he is going down easy, everybody starts to get frustrated with it. That's the only thing I can think that the reason that people will slate him, because I think he's got bags of potential. I think that if you look at what we bought him for 6 million or 7 million pounds, if we were to sell him now, I think we could treble that, maybe even quadruple it. So I think he's got bags of potential, and I just think the fans get frustrated when they see the same thing. But listen, let's not forget that the people around him at the moment aren't exactly amazing footballers. So for him to come out and do what he's doing, I think he deserves all the plaudits that he is getting from those fans that are giving him the credit.
Scunny.
Yeah, I can't really. Well, I can say a bit more. I think the reason you got to think as well when he goes down easily, you got to think that every time he does seem to go down, he always wins a free kick. You know, and he's one of them type of players like we've just been mentioning. He's got, when he goes down, he wins a free kick. We get frustrated as fans because we want to see a bit more, a faster approach to a game. You want to see that fast going forward, but sometimes that can't always happen. So he takes the free kick. He's not afraid of a tackle. He's not afraid to get his foot stuck in there. He's not afraid to get a yellow card either. So, and you need players like that. And I mentioned it before about it especially against the Chelsea game. When the game turns into a bit more of a fight, a bit more of a scrappy game, there's no one better we've got in our team than Guendouzi to take that scrappy fight. He, like you said, Manny, and he gives 110% every time, and you can see that. And when that game does turn scrappy, I don't think he doesn't really lose his head to me. He just, he just gets on with it. He fights for the ball. He fights for it. Fights against his man. He can move the ball forward. His passing range, I think, for a 20-year-old is brilliant. And a lot of people are mentioning about his passing range not being that good, but I've seen some passes from him that will rival Xhaka's long-range crosses, long crosses. And he's done that quite a lot. There's a couple of times last season where he's put the ball over the top of the defender's head and put someone in on goal.
The best one was the North London derby, mate. The North London derby, the ball to Aubameyang. Wow, that was vision. That was amazing.
This is it, you see. And he can sometimes, he tries it, which sometimes it don't pay off, but he can thread that ball through an eye of a needle as well. So he has got a great passing range. He just needs to perfect it a little bit. But then you could say, well, he's only young still. He's only 20-year-old, but at least he's giving it a go. At least he's trying. You know, there's a lot of our players that don't even bother doing that. You know, they can't even be bothered to pass the ball forward. They do backwards and sideways. So, you know, at least this kid's trying. And I said last season, I think, when we bought him and he came in last season, I think I said at the start of the season, we need to give this kid a chance. I think he's going to go for it. But, you know, and it's working out for him. And I think we can just say, like we said before, like, sorry, Max, Max. It's that picture. Sorry, I'll give it away. I've give it away. Sorry, Max. You know, you can come out now, mate. But yeah, it's that picture. But yeah, it's like we say, he's only a young kid, so he's going to do some things quite erratically sometimes.
And that's what people forget. People are forgetting that this dude's still 20. I think it's because he's been in the team for so long and he's played that many games for us already. People are expecting him to be established. They're expecting him to be a lot more professional than he already is. But what I like about Guendouzi, right, and you saw it against Bournemouth, he was having a little tussle with Gosling, right, near their near the penalty, no, not the penalty spot, near the corner flag, right, near Bellerin. And Gosling came in and kind of tried to get the ball off him, but almost stamped on his hands. And, you know, they had a little bit of a tiff. You know, Guendouzi loves that. And then when Bournemouth are breaking, Guendouzi comes in when Gosling gives the ball, pops the ball off, and kind of, I don't know if it was a shoulder, but more like a sly elbow, you know what I mean, to Gosling, to kind of letting him know that he's there. This is what I love about this kid. He's going to leave a little bit on you.
He's not afraid to get into the fight either, is he? He's one of the first persons that'll jump in.
Exactly.
And that's what I've noticed. You know, if there's a bit of a scrap going on, which has happened a few times with Arsenal now, a bit of a tiff between two players of, well, mostly Lacazette and an opposite team. Who's the first person to jump in? Guendouzi.
I love it.
Man, do you know what I love the most this season about Matteo Guendouzi that no one has really picked up that much about apart from me? And I was there at the game and I loved it when it happened. Zaha goes through and it's 2-2 and he just goes, fucking see you later. Brilliant.
Yes.
Absolutely brilliant.
How many times, right? And funny enough, we can talk about the same game a couple seasons, last season or the season before. No, last season. Away to Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace are on the break. Mustafi's on the halfway line. Instead of taking out the man and taking one for the team, he lets whoever it was go through. They go off and win a penalty. Yep. Guendouzi now, we have a corner. Zaha is going through and he's going to score here. We all know he's going to score. Guendouzi's like, hell the fuck no, come here. By any means necessary, like Malcolm X said. That's what Guendouzi is all about, by any means necessary. Whatever I've got to do to make sure my team has a foothold in this game, I'm going to do it. I'm going to annoy the fans. I'm going to annoy the opposition. I'm going to rile them up. I'm going to fall down. I'm going to do whatever I can. And I love that. And a lot of section of the fans don't appreciate that. And genuinely we should, because we've called out for players like this for how long?
Yeah.
And we've got one, so we better appreciate him. And look who's coming to the room.
Fuck, what's up?
Look who's coming to the room.
Why did you put that picture up of me? I'm so fucking stoned in it.
Well, see, now the gig is not up yet, ladies and gentlemen, because as you can see, like, we got ventriloquist in the house. We got ventriloquist in the house, man. He's doing a double act. How's it going, bro, man? Welcome. How you been, bro?
Good, man. I heard you were like the Steve Irwin of Clunge, and you were off Clunge hunting again this morning.
No. I was in my dream, though.
Were you
Oh
clunge
man,
hunting in your dream? Was it good?
yeah. I
Was she white? Was she white?
I was
know
in
you got a
Marbella,
thing for the
bro.
white booties.
Man, I got a thing for any booty and like any race, man. I don't discriminate, bro. I don't discriminate, man. It's a pick and mix in my bag, bro. You know what I mean? I don't discriminate as long as they thick. Right? I love thickness, and that's what I was chasing in my dream. And I was like in the beach in Marbella and just chasing clunge, man. And it was amazing. And then I woke up, I was like, "What? Damn, what time is it?" And then I've had like 83 messages. I'm like, "Oh no." Oh, I need to explain last week, right? Last week it was genuine. Last week I had some issues. I couldn't get in touch with the boys because there was just drama in my life, man. But this week I fully hold my hands up. I was asleep. But Max, welcome, man. Welcome to the room. We're just talking about Guendouzi, bro.
Yeah,
I want your opinion on the big man himself, right? He gets a lot of hate. So give me some Guendouzi.
Undue hate. Like, is he 20 yet, or is he still 19?
He's 20. He's going to be
20.
21.
Right. Yeah. But French League, Division 2, brought over for, I imagine, not the role that he's ended up playing, especially the role he ended up playing under Unai Emery. Probably brought over more in the role that Arteta's outlaid him in, as a backup. But I was very big on the Guendouzi could be the next Fabregas train last season. I wavered a little bit throughout the end of the Unai Emery era. But there's two things that you cannot train. Like, I genuinely don't believe that you can train. Skills-based stuff, you can go out and train. You can go out and say, okay, this is where we're going to sit. This is where we're going to move. This is your zone. Arteta's teaching those things. And I think we saw that in the Bournemouth game where he was fantastic. The thing you can't teach is how to have really big fucking testicles. And whatever anyone says about Guendouzi, that motherfucker needs a wheelbarrow when he goes to the shops to get milk just to carry his nuts. The way he fucking kicks people, the way he likes to fucking hurt people, the way he likes to wind up crowds, the way he enjoys being the pantomime villain. I love that. And I love that he's willing to take that role on board. I love that when one of his boys gets kicked, he goes over and fucking kicks them. He did it in the Bournemouth game. I've forgotten who got kicked, but Guendouzi he goes straight over and puts studs on the guy. And I'm like, you can't teach that. Guendouzi's the sort of guy on a Friday night out I want to be out with. I want to go out with him because I'm going to say some shit or I'm going to do some shit and get in trouble. And I need to know that my boys, regardless of what I've said or what I've done, they're in with me. And that's what Guendouzi is for me. And I think that in a team that still has some gaps and some skills gaps and some holes, that Guendouzi provides something intangible, something outside of footballing skill. And I imagine he's a great personality in the dressing rooms. I love there's like a picture of all the Arsenal players walking down the stairs at the start of the season, and Guendouzi's like sliding his ass down the rail with his hands up, like, whee! That's Guendouzi for me. Sticking his head out of a car after a North London derby, that's Guendouzi for me. Getting in John Terry's head, putting kicks on people. Did anyone mention when he fucking kicked Zaha and was like, nah, bruv, not going to fucking happen. And I'm like, I love you. I fucking love you, Guendouzi. Yeah, give that kid a season under Arteta. He's going to be amazing.
We need to appreciate this kid, man. And I think he gets undue hate because of what he is. And there's this stigma in English football that when you're playing in the Premier League, you need to be hard and you need to be stern. You need to be that Martin Keown, that old school sort of player, that hard man, that Duncan Ferguson that everybody loves. But in an age where football, a lot of it is now a lot of play acting, a lot of gamesmanship, you need a player like Guendouzi, mate. You need somebody who's going to go to war no matter what, and is willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that we win. If he's got to carry the ball 60, 70 yards, he's going to do it. If he's got to win a foul, if he's got to win a penalty, if he's got to get somebody sent off, if he's got to round the fans up, he's going to do it. And we don't have enough players like that, and we need to start appreciating this kid. Fuck you, Fergus. All right.
Oh, it's undue. It's undue. This concept of like, oh, he falls over all the time. Buying fouls is an important part of the Premiership.
Damn right.
Because it's such a helter-skelter league that moves up and down the pitch so fast and it's so athletic that buying fouls, breaking up the play, feeling the contact and going down. Like, get it out of your fucking head that it's 1970 something. Get it out of your head that English football is a certain way. English football isn't English football anymore. It's global football, and it's got our English twang on it that we like, which is like helter-skelter fucking attack. Right? Get that shit out of your head and stop thinking about that stuff. Like, I mean, even look at like players like Gareth Bale went down constantly. Would anyone complain if, granted, he's a spud and he can fuck off, but would anyone have complained if Gareth Bale had have come through our system and turned into the player that he was? No.
Fuck no.
You know, no one would have
Fuck
fucking
no.
cared. I've got friends who are Palace fans, and they're like, do you realize how much Wilf Zaha buying fouls and going down, how important that is for the way that Palace play, for the way that they're able to then execute free kicks? You know, and as we get, you know, guys like Pepe, I don't know whether we're going to consider Pepe a youth player. I guess we're not going to consider him a youth player. But, I mean, he's just over that hill into, I guess, like a young adult player, if you want to look at it. But, you know, bringing players like that in with that sort of delivery, and then having a player like Guendouzi who's going to buy 4 or 5 fouls in a match, all of a sudden that brings in an attacking element that allows us to score from set pieces. If we bring in these guys like Mari and, you know, have guys who are better at scoring from set pieces, all of a sudden that's going to have an effect as well. So all this shit about like, oh, I don't like him because he flops around too much. Shut the fuck up.
I love it. I love
I
it.
made
Give
that
the
point.
guy-
I did make that point, but it wasn't as graphic as Max is there.
Yeah.
No, man. Sometimes, you know what, Scotty? Sometimes you just gotta come out and say it, man. You gotta say it from your gut, and you don't care about the situation that you're
I
in.
did mention about the fact that he wins us. You know, he wins us the fouls, he wins us them yellow cards. You know, and
We need that.
he's not afraid to take yellows either. So, and that
We need that.
what we need. Yeah.
And
You know
I think
what?
the
You know what?
interesting
You
thing
know
is
what?
that
Hold
he's
on,
not
Max.
getting
Hold on.
spoken
Hold on,
about
Max.
as a youth player.
Hold on, Max. Hold on. The thing I wanted to say, right, and this goes back to last week, is that us being so nice, yeah, us being so easy to play against, us being, you know, everybody's second favorite team. A lot of the time, we never used to get the rub of the green. A lot of the time, we weren't the ones that were, you know, going down easily. We weren't the ones who were doing that stuff. But oppositions used to do it to us, and we would always get in trouble for it. But now that we have a player like that, we move away from that old Arsenal way of being nice and making sure that we don't get yellows and we don't disrupt the flow and with no gamesmanship. Fuck that. This is new Arsenal, mate. But go on, Max. What you were saying?
I was just going to say, I think it's interesting that so many people, they're willing to give youths in the team of a similar age bracket a massive break. But when it comes to Guendouzi, because he's played games, he's considered to be a senior player already. And he's
This is
not.
what we said earlier, yeah.
Yeah,
This
he's
is
still
what
a
we said
kid.
earlier.
That's the thing that I find interesting with it. Like, everyone's like, oh, Project Youth. And then you don't go and throw Guendouzi in there. It's like, fucking,
Maybe
really?
that is a compliment to him that people don't want to give him the credit for, because that for me would be a compliment. So if I hear people slating me and I was a Guendouzi, I'll be thinking I'll take it as a compliment. They clearly don't see me as a young prospect. They see me as a first teamer. So maybe that's what we were kind of saying at the start, is that I think that the fans that are getting on his back is harsh. But I still feel that I actually see people because of the amount of games he's played at such a young age, that is a compliment. So I'm a massive fan. Always have been a massive fan.
What else have we done while
no.
I've been gone? Have we said that Nelson's average? Have we been
No,
through
no,
that?
yeah.
We haven't got that far. We kind of touched on it, but I just want to touch on the point that Potts was making. Listen, there are fans out here that want to give Mesut Ozil a break. There are fans,
Fuck Mesut
fans
Ozil.
out here. Exactly. There are fans out here that are still saying we need to build a team around him. But when the conversation turns to a player like Guendouzi, they're like, oh no, he's not good enough, which doesn't make any fucking sense. But anyway, we're going to move on. Now, Ashley Cole and Robert Pires, Mathieu Flamini and Fabregas, Sol Campbell, Colo Touré, Vieira, Gilberto Silva. I'm talking about combinations. I'm talking about partnerships on the pitch. And then you fast forward to what we have now. And I'm talking about a blossoming combination that could be our left side for a long, long time to come. And I'm hoping it is. I'm talking about Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli. The golden boys at the minute. Now, whoever wants to jump in, please jump in. Talk to me, lads, man. How good are these two at the moment?
Yeah, I must admit, man, I'm very excited by these two players. I think if you look at our left-hand side, there's a lot of options. There's a lot of injuries, but there's a lot of options, particularly at left back at the moment. Obviously, we've just signed a new fullback as well. We've got Tierney, we've got Kolasinac. For me, it just proves that we have not missed them, because this guy has come in who is not a left back apparently, but looks like he could potentially be one. I think with Martinelli in front of him, the pair of them have just got that. We are going to give 110% no matter what happens. We'll stick together. We'll help each other out. There's a combination there, and it's interesting, Manny, when you say about Ashley Cole and Robert Pires, because that was probably the best left-hand side that Arsenal have had, certainly in my era of watching Arsenal.
Yeah.
But when you look at this of late, this is looking very, very special, and it's hard to even imagine and believe that they are 18 years of age. This is so special in terms of potential that I think that we should all be very excited about it. I think when you look at what Saka has brought, he looked to me like he could be a player that could potentially break through on the left wing. It didn't really look to me as if he was kind of going to stay there in that position for whatever reason. Now that he's come into that left back role, he's kind of made it his own. And I think what he seems to have done is have that kind of attitude of, I don't really care where you're going to play me. I am going to give you 110%. And that's why I said right at the start that Arteta has now gone to him as opposed to sticking with Nelson. I know Nelson's had a knock or whatever it be, but he's always going to have, I believe, that one player that he looks at and sticks with and puts faith behind. And it looks now that Nelson's gone, he's the next one that he's really looking at. So that left-hand side has been exciting, not just against Chelsea, but I thought it was exceptional against Bournemouth as well. And Saka for me was by far man of the match against Bournemouth. And has been great in that position since he's been there, in my opinion.
Max, we were on the pod. Hold on. Let me set up the question.
All right.
I want to sit still. we were on a pod earlier this year, and we spoke about mentality, right? We spoke about not that many players in this team have the Martinelli mentality of it doesn't matter what happens, I'm going to make it. And then you can put Bukayo Saka in that conversation, because it doesn't matter that I'm playing that position. It doesn't matter that I'm playing left back. It doesn't matter that I'm playing left wing back, left wing, centre back, whatever. Whatever position I'm going to play my best because I want to make it. How crucial is it to have that Gabriel Martinelli and that Bukayo Saka mentality in order to make it in this game, bruv?
Well, I think it's the difference between making it and not making it. And I've said this before on other podcasts, that the skills and the mentality are often two separating factors. You know, I'm sure I've said this before, but I used to watch quite a lot of the under-21s. We had a stream that was all the under-21 games in Australia. And the amount of guys who I've seen come through who have the skill to be successful but clearly don't have the mentality to be successful is astounding. And I think that when you're looking at Martinelli's and you're looking at Saka's, and when you're looking at Guendouzi's for that matter, there's a grittiness and a steeliness and a desire to get it done. Now, Reiss Nelson is probably one of the most dominant under-21 players I've ever seen. Like, absolutely dominant at under-21. Now, I'm not sure whether that's a lack of physicality. I'm sure there is an element of lack of physicality there, but I would say that's a mentality thing, a belief thing, not being able to stand up and go into a first team and say, I belong here. This is my role, and this is what I'm going to do. Now, on Saka, I just want to say two things. Number one, I'm more excited about Saka than I am about Martinelli, right? So everyone's losing it about Martinelli. I am, not that I am not losing it about Martinelli, but I am very, very much, very, very big on the Saka train. I don't just think that there's a good player in there. I think that there's potentially an absolutely world-class, like world-class player in there. Big statements, big shouts. I don't see anything that he doesn't have. He's deceptively strong. He's very fast. He finishes intelligently, like roofing the ball from that angle. That's basically the only option to a player at that age. That's like Alan Shearer shit. You know, that's like, I have one option here. I'm just going to blast it and it's going in and that's it. You know, the way he crosses the ball, the way he delivers the ball, the way I don't get fearful of him in tight spaces. When he's on the ball and he's on a wing, I don't get fearful about that at all. So I wanted to put out there, that's the amount that I think about this kid. But I think we need to pump the brakes. But I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit on the idea that he's going to be a left back. I understand that he's there and he's currently doing it. There were things against Chelsea where I was like, okay. He got absolutely bummed by, what's his name, the triple-barreled bloke's name?
Oh,
Hudson-Odoi.
Hudson-Odoi. He got absolutely bummed by him for half an hour before we got our shit together and got on the front foot. And I know in that game he went on to play quite well, but I saw holes there and I saw gaps there. I love that they've got this relationship. I personally still think he's a player further up the pitch than is a left back, but the ability for us to have someone on that side at that age demographic who looks like they're going to be able to choose their own destiny through being that level, through having that level of versatility is incredibly exciting. And when you're constructing a squad, having players like that in a squad is invaluable. I would say that Saka's value to the team, his input in money that we're not going to have to spend, could be upwards of £70 million right now. That's money we do not have to spend.
Oh, 100%. I agree to an extent with the Hudson-Odoi thing, right? And that was his first real examination at left back. But to his credit, right, and people don't really give him credit for that, when he did adjust, when he did get his shit together, it was Hudson-Odoi who was being asked to switch wings because he was getting no love whatsoever on that side. Now,
I'm going to say, after about that 25, 30-minute mark, he owned Hudson-Odoi all over.
And do you remember what that boy did to Bellerin?
Willian, he owned as well, you know, when they switched. Was it Willian who was...
Like I said, I believe in the kid.
Very experienced winger.
Yeah, I believe in the kid, man. I'm not sure that that's the spot.
I think you're right. I think it'll be foolish. It'll be foolish. It'll be foolish to disrupt it at the moment. One thing I will say about Saka that you boys haven't touched on, which I did forget. I was at the Sheffield United home game. Was it Lundstrom that he put on his ass? Was it Lundstrom?
Yeah.
And I thought that was the first time I thought, wow, this boy's got some strength then, because he's a unit. Lundstrom.
Deceptively.
Yeah.
Deceptively strong.
And there's one thing that I even forgot. He does have an eye for a decent pass. You remember that Aubameyang assist over at United?
Yeah.
Just that tiny little ball around the corner. The boy can do it all. But what I like about him more than everything he can do is that upstairs, mentally, is that whatever position you ask of me, coach, I will do it, and he will do it to the best of his ability. And there's so many players. There's so many players that have come and gone, right, in the years that we've been supporting this club, that they have all the ability in the world. There's one in the freaking squad right now. I have to go back to him because I haven't had my rant about him. There's one particular bug-eyed ET looking cunt in the team, right? All the ability in the world. All the ability in the world, right? Can do anything with a football, but mentally so weak, so feeble, such a bitch. And meanwhile, you have somebody like Saka who comes in. I'm 18 years old. I'm being played out of position, but you know what? It doesn't matter. Ask Mesut Ozil to play defensive midfield for 30 minutes.
But
hell,
they have bitched him. They have bitched him.
Max.
Yeah.
Let me have my rant, Max. All right. Ask him to mark Jorginho for 45 minutes and he will give up in 15.
God, you're giving him that long?
Genuinely, that's how long he gave up for in the Europa League final. 15 minutes. 15 minutes. I watched the game back and I was watching him in particular because he was given that Ramsey role. And in 15 minutes, he gave up. And then once he gave up, that's when Chelsea started to dominate the game. But if you were to ask somebody like Saka, listen, this is your man, you're not going to escape him. He's not letting Jorginho go anywhere. Max, you were saying, bruv.
I'm just saying these kids have bitched some of the senior players. Like they have I wonder, I said this to Toby on the phone the other day. I wonder like whether or not there's any tension in the dressing room because our senior players are essentially getting like burned by these kids. You know, people are like, oh, it must be so great having them around. But I look at it and I'm like, you just bitched a World Cup winner. You know, like you literally just came out and what you guys are doing and how hard you're running and the effect you're having. Like Martinelli, like without jumping the gun massively on it, because as you guys know, I'm always a bit pump the brakes on things. I like to see how things pan out. But what has Martinelli's performances done to Lacazette? You know, it's Lacazette sitting there and looking at this 18-year-old kid and being like, I got signed for £55 million to be Arsenal's main man. Nobody's singing my fucking song. Like I'm working my ass off, but he's not having the impact that Martinelli's having. And for me, it's like these kids like, what did the five fingers say to the face? Slap.
He has done, hasn't he? And to go back to Saka as well, I know you're saying pump the brakes on the left back, but he's got the potential makings of a great left wing back.
Yep.
He really has.
Yep.
Not necessarily a full-on left back, but as a left wing back who pushes forward more often than not, he's got all the potential makings for that.
I just don't want people to pigeonhole people into positions and say he's had 4 or 5 good games back there. Yeah. He's definitely a left back. Like we haven't seen Tierney in this system, a fit Tierney in this system. But like I would say the
thing is he's
better than
giving everyone another option.
Yeah, and he's better than Kolasinac. And Kolasinac's on 150 grand a week wages.
Max,
fucking sell him.
Hold on, Max. Potts, what the hell were you doing? Were you having a wank again?
No, man, I had to top up, man. I had to top up with some orange soda, man.
But he had to top up because he's had a wank and he's low on fluids now.
That's what it is. I'm like Kel from Keenan and Kel, man. I love orange soda.
Is that orange soda or is that orange juice?
Orange soda, man. Orange soda. And there's no fucking wine or Haribo in it.
Man, it was a nice mix, bruv. You need to try it.
I do need to try it.
But listen.
No, I want to keep all my teeth, thanks.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with having all the Haribo here and there. You know what I mean? I bet you have your kids' sweets, bro. Don't lie.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to deny that. Jesus Christ, if they're left hanging around, like you see one in a packet still, you think, oh fuck it, I'll have that.
The human Henry Hoover, man. Listen,
no,
Martinelli, right? And Scott, I'm going to come with you, and then we're going to move on, man. Martinelli, the sky's the limit, or do we really need to chill with this kid?
I don't know about that one, to be fair, because the way he has been playing and the way he's taking his chances, you know, I think the sky's the limit for him. He's just that kid who just doesn't give up running. He just doesn't give up doing anything. Here's another one that we're saying about Guendouzi. When you're in a scrappy game, he's another lad who you want in your team, who's going to take it by the scruff of the neck and just think, fuck you, cunts, I'm going for it. I don't give a shit what you're saying. Look what he did against Chelsea. All right, that header come out to Mustafi header come out to him. He thought, do you know what? Screw it. I'm having this. Ran with it. He didn't give a shit who was in front of him. All right, Kante slipped, but I still think he would have got past him even if he didn't slip. And then it's like, and then Pepe's running next to him. And it's like, oh, you're thinking, oh, he might pass it. Nah, he's having it. He's on. He's having it. He just doesn't give a shit, and that's what I like about him. You know, he got stood on his hand not so long ago. I can't remember what game it is, and I think he had one game out, and he got his hand strapped up, and he was still back on the pitch the next game. So I think he only missed one game by doing that, and he's still back out the next time, all bandaged up on his hand and everything. Still out there, still giving it 110%. You can't fault the guy at the minute.
No, you
he
can't.
is, and like Max was saying, he you know, even Aubameyang, he must be shitting himself by thinking this 18-year-old kid's showing me up.
Man, if you as a senior player, you're looking at these young players, right? And especially if you're at the tail end of your career, if you are so close-minded, right? And if you're so, narrow-minded that you, instead of inspiring these young kids to be great, you're sulking about them showing you up. That's it. That tells me a lot about the mentality within this team. And I can already see a few players doing that because we've seen these players down tools. So really, we know that these players are capable of anything. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's what's going on in the dressing room. I wouldn't be surprised if they're soaking in the corner like, yeah, you know what, you fucking kid. Instead of going, what the fuck is this kid doing to me? It's like, no, let me show you how it's done here. You know what I mean? But we don't have players with that mentality because this is the same group of dickheads who went to Baku and embarrassed us. So, listen, I'm going to move on from those two guys. I'm going to talk about two very different. I don't even know if one of them actually fits into this Project Youth thing, but I'm going to throw him in anyway. I'm talking about Joe Willock and Maitland-Niles. Now, in those two players, Max, do we have the future of Arsenal's midfield?
Hurry up, bruv.
Man, it's a very difficult question because, like, the fan inside me, who is a massive Ainsley Maitland-Niles fan, I'm a massive, massive Ainsley Maitland-Niles fan, and I have been for a really, really long time. So throughout, when people had dissenting voices about him and things like that, I was a fan of him. I still am a fan of him. You can see Maitland-Niles pull a ball out of the sky on his toe and just kill it dead. And you can also see him stand there and the defender take the ball off his toe and he stands there. He's like, all right, man, you did that. Takes a fucking puff out of his blunt. But
Still got Zaha in his pocket, hasn't he?
yeah. But
With his blunt and his house keys.
I think that the Arteta mentality, this is genuinely what I believe, with the way that we appear to be looking to rebalance our squad as far as where we're going to spend our money on transfers, with the emergence of Martinelli, with the emergence of a lot of the youth, I've got a feeling that's what Arteta's thinking. I've got a feeling this Suarez signing speaks volumes to the fact that Arteta believes that Ainsley Maitland-Niles has to move into the midfield. The time he spent at right back, the fact that he's been pulling into a right of a 3 system at right back anyway, the fact that we've been crying out for a ball carrier, someone who can beat a guy, someone who can get in between the lines, someone with a pass. Don't forget, Maitland-Niles has goals at youth level as well. Absolutely. And if we're talking about money saved, at the bare minimum, there's squad money saved. 20 grand on a squad, 20 million pound on a squad player, 30 million pound on a squad player. And I believe you can make cohesive midfields out of these guys. What Maitland-Niles is, we've now really got no idea, and that's an issue for us as fans, and that's an issue that Arteta has to unsolve. Because when he came through, we were convinced he was a deep-lying midfielder. Then we were kind of led to believe that he was a right-sided forward for a period of time, wing back for a period of time, apt right back for a period of time. So Maitland-Niles, I'm going to put just on the side. I'm just going to put him on the side, and we'll see what happens with him. All the skill in the world, all the ability in the world. Joe Willock, legitimately, if he could just start stringing together performances, and if he can start taking what Arteta has to say to him and turning it into genuine performances, that boy's got the lot. We've seen him score crackers. This goal against Liverpool, like we're talking about, we need midfielders with goals. We need midfielders who have a shot. Well, Willock's got that. I only read the other day that he's over 6'1". The boy does not look that tall to me. Like, he's on quite a thick frame. He's super fast. Someone put up his stats the other day, and he's got, like, in the games he's played, he's in basically the top 5 parameters for everything, like running distance, tackles made, interceptions made, and he falls down in dispossessions, and his passing stats are the 2 that he falls down in. I think he gets dispossessed a huge amount because he dwells on the ball a little bit. But I mean, that's all coming with experience. So in my really, really like incredibly roundabout way, have we found midfielders that are going to move us into the future? Yeah, I think we have, but I think we have out of necessity more than anything, because I don't think Arteta's looking at that midfield and thinking, I want to spend millions and millions of pounds there. I think he's looking at other ends of the pitch.
Yeah, and I'm hoping he is. Potts! You've criticized Willock all season. We've had conversations, bro. You're like, I don't think this guy's going to make it. You've been a doubter, bro. You've been a doubter, right? Now, you watched the Bournemouth game just like I watched the Bournemouth game. And this was kind of, for us as fans, it was our reintroduction into Joe Willock, because he hasn't been in the side. He hasn't been in the side since Ljungberg, was in charge. And he wasn't great under Ljungberg, and people was like, hey, Ljungberg worked with him, and Ljungberg's the reason why he is what he is now. But are you starting to change your stance a little bit with Joe Willock after that little performance you saw of him against Bournemouth?
Yeah, it was a great performance against Bournemouth. What I like about him the most is the fact that he's got some drive when he goes forward with the ball. I'm still not convinced. That this guy is going to make it at Arsenal. I said at the start of this pod that I think there's three that are going to make it, and I stand by that, and they are Guendouzi, Saka, and Martinelli. I personally disagree with Max. I think Martinelli will be the best of the three. I think that guy really has got everything, and the stats are proving it. I think the last time that he's actually anybody come near that was Nicolas Anelka. If he's half as good as him, I'll be really impressed. Running down on goal like that looks superb. We've already mentioned why we think Saka will make it, and Guendouzi also. I'm not too sure about Maitland-Niles and Willock. If they do make it at Arsenal, I don't believe they'll be first teamers. I think they'll be around the squad. And sometimes that's not bad. If players like that are Arsenal through and through, then sometimes you need that for the dressing room. Love him or hate him, Ray Parlour, he was like that. He was an Arsenal through and through. People used to say he wasn't the best player. No, he wasn't. But he was a legend in his own right because he loved the club and he put his life on the line for it. And sometimes that is what you need in the dressing room. You look at Carl Jenkinson to how bad he is, how poor he was as a footballer, how shockingly bad he was as a footballer. But in the dressing room, he was basically living the dream that we would all love to live. Sometimes for the dressing room, you need that, and that kind of gets you through certain games. So for me, if Joe Willock and Maitland-Niles are going to be at Arsenal for the future, I don't think it will be in the first team. I personally don't see Ainsley Maitland-Niles as the centre midfielder that Max does. But listen, I hope I'm wrong because they both got potential. Don't get me wrong. I'm just not seeing that. I put them in the Nelson bracket for me. I don't put them in the Saka or Martinelli bracket. Saying that, Manny, I was impressed with him on Monday night, Joe Willock, and I was, and a lot of people said that it was a poor second half he had. I don't think anyone was amazing in the second half. To be fair, it was a boring second half.
First gear was boring.
Really poor second half. Yeah, but Joe Willock, great game from him. To be fair, on Monday night.
Dan, people will complain about anything. Go on, bruv.
I was just going to say, is the fact that Maitland-Niles is a 7 out of 10 player in 3 positions mean that Maitland-Niles is actually more likely to become more of our James Milner stopgap, long-time squad player, 25 games a season? He's maybe more likely to be one of the guys who makes it, not to the top level, but makes it. And Willock's actually the guy who has to make it because his diversity isn't as high as what Maitland-Niles' diversity is. That's the way I see AMN. I see AMN as that real archetypal squad player.
You may be right there. I mean, he can play left back, right back, centre mid. He can go forward. He has put on the wing before. I think with Joe Willock, I'm not so sure that I thought he was an 8. Joe Willock, then he was playing as a 10 and he looked okay. And then it was just like okay performances. He has sort of scored a couple of crackers, don't get me wrong, but he's also missed some absolute sitters. And it to me seems like it's one or the other with Joe Willock. Ainsley Maitland-Niles is probably more of a consistent 7 out of 10 performer in those positions. You're right. And maybe he could be our James Milner. But I'm just not convinced that he's going to be a first team player along with Joe Willock. I think that what's his name up front as well, we haven't mentioned. Bloody hell, why is that going up my head? Nketiah, sorry. Those 3, I just don't see that they're going to make it in the first team. That's all.
Blah. I got chewed out on Twitter for saying that we should put Willock out on loan next season. Because I genuinely think if he went and got a full season of football in a Premier League side, that's going to be the best opportunity for us to get back the player that we may need in a year or so, not trying to integrate him in bits and pieces. And people called me mad.
See, part of me agrees with that, right? But I think he should have gone out this season as opposed to next, because now with the attributes that he does have, right? With the strength that he had to just spin away from Dan Gosling, not once, but a few times in that game, the running power, and then that ability to just pause and just, pop the ball off to Martinelli when he could have been tempted to have a shot. And then when I can't remember who he spun, but when he jinked his way into the box, right, and his energy and his pressing and the running power that we don't have within the side, he has it. And I feel that we've missed the trick in sending him out on loan this season because now we are going to need him more next season. Because I don't think in the summer, the midfield is going to be, the area where the board focus on. I don't think it is. I think it's going to be more defense. And I think we missed the trick. He should have gone out on loan this season, for real.
When you send these players out on loan as well, what do you boys think about where they go on loan? Because that to me is fairly important. I believe that it's kind of not just about them playing every game, but kind of, for example, you look at Smith Rowe. That for me is a really good loan signing because he'll go to Huddersfield, he'll play every game, and he'll get fucking beaten up and he'll toughen up.
Lumps kicked out of him.
He will. So that for me is a good loan signing. I'm not so sure that it was that great when he went over to Leipzig, personally.
No, you know what, right? I think for me, I would keep him in English football.
Yes,
agreed.
That's my personal opinion because when you send them to places like Leipzig and whatnot, it's a completely different culture. It's a completely different type of football. It's not. People will say that yes, it's as fast as the Premier League, okay, but it's not as physical as the Premier League. Right? Reece Nelson went over there and he did fairly well. Look at the player that he is now. He is not the player that we thought he was going to be.
He only did very well at the start when he first went out there. Then he got dropped.
Yeah, I believe if you're going to send these guys out on loan, like the John Jules at Lincoln, the Ola Yinka at Northampton, the Smith Rowe in Huddersfield and whatnot, keep them in English football. Let them go down there, and it's still a very fast pace. It's very physical, and you've got to grind. The pitches are not as great. Your pass has to be 100. Your touch has to be 100%. So
and the fans are screaming at you because Championship football is do or die. It's
not just Champions League football. Like with John Jules has gone to Lincoln, so that's like what is it, League One or League Two football? So even doing that, going down even to the League Two, League One, there's good teams there. It's still physical, if not more physical.
I love watching Championship football.
Like Manny said, even in League One and League Two, the pitches are terrible.
Yeah,
it's the hardest. It is the hardest league, I think, to win or to get out of in all of the top leagues. I would say the Championship is the hardest league. It's the most hard fought. It's the closest. They play every 3 games. I think when you go somewhere like Germany, when you send a kid overseas, it's good for growing them up. It gets them off their mum's tit. It gets them out and into the real world. I also think it's good for skills development. I think they go over there and it's a little bit more lightweight than the Premiership, and it's very, very tactical, very technical, lots of different formations.
Jadon Sancho has proven that, hasn't he?
Yeah. I'd be interested to see how Jadon Sancho would even go back in a Premiership team. And I guarantee you that the level he's at in Germany, that level would not be equal when he came back to the Premiership. He would take a season to be able to come through as well. So I like sending guys to the Championship, but I also do not mind sending guys to the Premiership. I don't mind sending guys to the Premiership. I wouldn't mind looking at it and saying, okay, well, can we send Joe Willock to a Bournemouth, where he's at least going to play in a team that plays interesting football under an interesting coach? It doesn't really matter that Bournemouth aren't playing particularly well or they're going to get relegated. As long as he's getting game time and as long as he's active and involved in it, fantastic. So
I'm with you there. And Nelson to Palace or something like that. That to me, I would not mind
Chambers
that,
at Fulham.
Yep, absolutely. Why not send someone to Palace? Why not send Nelson off to a Premier League team and say, look, we expect him to play 20 games in the first 6 months. If he doesn't play 20 games the first 6 months, then you pull him on loan at the end of 6 months and you send him somewhere else. I think this is the world that we have to live in with these guys. But if what I'm led to believe is true through a couple of people, I know, Dan, you had a contact who told you this as well, and a guy who I have contact with on Twitter told me this as well. But apparently we've essentially got like a 60 or 70 million pounds worth of our budget has been put aside for a central defender. And that may be like an Upamecano or someone like that. So it is very, very, very unlikely that midfielders are going to be coming in. And I'll put this to you. I know it's not about the youth, but I almost guarantee you Granit Xhaka gets a 1 year extension, a 1 year or a 2 year extension on his contract. I guarantee you of it. Just because.
When does his contract run out?
I think he goes into the last year at the end of this season. I think he goes into the last year.
No, remember he signed a 5-year deal. He signed a 5-year deal. That Emery came.
Did he sign an extension under Emery? Did he?
Yeah.
No, 5 years before Emery was confirmed, or after he was confirmed.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, it was when it was the end of Wenger's year, wasn't it? He
They'll
signed a
give him an
5-year deal.
extension. They'll give him an extension to make a statement. But bringing it back to the youth, so we don't go too far off topic, I think that because of that solidifying in that position within the system that clearly works, that works in the dual pivot with Torreira, I think that the youth are going to be used by Arteta. He's going to back them heavily. He's going to coach them heavily. I think that's why you won't see Ceballos play so much for the end of the year. I think you'll see Maitland-Niles given some run-outs. I think that you'll definitely see Willett given more run-outs, and as long as they perform, I think they'll maintain their spot in the team over Ceballos, who I don't think is going to stay. We're going to backfill the team with this youth. This youth is theoretically going to save us £100 million in transfers that we may otherwise have needed to make while we backfill our defence, move on the old blood, readjust what the age demographic and the skill demographic and the weighting of that defensive area is. And then with Martinelli up there, I assume Aubameyang will be gone, meaning Martinelli is going to have a more pivotal part next season. I don't think Lacazette will go anywhere. I think he'll just be maintained as a pivotal central figure, the mature striker with Martinelli, and then maybe we'll bring someone else in as well on top of that to make some kind of a three. But I essentially believe that the youth within this midfield, that your Willocks and your AMNs and guys like that are going to be used to bolster, because this isn't going to be a one-season turnover for us. It's not going to be like we're going to go out and spend £40 million and we're going to get this dominant defensive midfield and we're going to go get £60 million worth of Upamecano and we're going to replace Aubameyang. These kids are going to be used at least over the next 2 seasons while we start strengthening and pulling other areas. And I think the midfield will probably be the last part that we attack.
Yeah. And that was the part I wanted to go into, but thanks, Max, for doing that, because you save us another 10, 15 minutes. And I want to go outside and celebrate Brexit.
Does everyone agree? Does everyone agree with that this is essentially the plan and that it's a money
100%.
save? Yeah.
And this is why, when certain people go at our young players so hard, and when they say that they're not good enough, we need to get rid of them. I'm like, do you understand that these players, these youth players that we need to back, they are pivotal to how we do business in the next few years? Because don't be surprised if the Sakas or the Martinellis go on to be the players that we think they're going to be. They will be gone for 80, 90 million. While we reinvest, while we do what Liverpool did with Coutinho, while we do what so many, what United did with Ronaldo, right? Do not be surprised that these youth, but we need them to actually be the players that we think they're going to be, because that's our moneymaker right there. Yeah. Yes, they may win us a title here and there. And I'm not saying Premier League title, I'm saying a title. It could be FA Cup, could be Europa League, could be whatever. But at the end of the day, if they are going to be a success, we are going to sell them for big money. So they need to be a success, mate. So we need to back them while they're here. We need to back. As fans, we give them time and we give them that to grow and become these players. Because if they fail, we're in trouble, mate.
But can I just add something that the godfather of football, in my opinion, Clive PFC from Arsenal Vision, who I just think Clive is just the fucking best, the best of the best out there. Everything he says, I just sit there and nod my head along to. And he said on their last podcast, it's not about whether or not they completely make it, because each of them has an asset value on sale, even if they only half make it. So if we use them over this season, they become decent players, but they're not good enough. They still hold value for us. So it's not just about whether they make it. It's about whether they either make it or whether they end up doing an Iwobi for us and creating £35 million worth of revenue coming in on the sale of them. And just finally, I think it's just a something to think about as well, to get excited about the kids, to back the kids, but also to understand that some of them are not going to make it and not trying to force the issue. And that's the way I feel about, I know I've been given some shit. I know Steve, who's got a bit of a chubby for the kids.
Oh my God. You just had to do it, didn't you?
I had to put it in. I know Steve will listen. I love you, Steve. But guys like Eddie, I honestly don't believe. People saying that next season we could lose Aubameyang and go into the season with Martinelli, Lacazette and Nketiah. I don't believe that. I don't see that. I don't think that's good enough. I don't think you downgrade from Aubameyang into an 18-year-old whiz kid, 12 to 15 goal a year French striker, and an Eddie Nketiah. So what I'm trying to say is, I guess, back the kids. They're going to save us a fortune. They all have on-sale value, but also be realistic, guys. Be realistic when you're watching performances and try and not get clouded in the idea that these kids are ours and they have to make it regardless. If they're not good enough, sell them and bring someone in who is.
Fair play. Scunny and Potts, final word with you guys, man. What's your take on this shit?
I think what we have to be realistic about is kind of the fact that there is some exciting youth here. And I don't really remember a time where we've had this much potential coming through at the same time. My only negative, I suppose, is I wouldn't mind seeing some centre-halves and defensive midfielders coming through at this age, because they all seem to be the same kind of positions, you know? We're seeing the Willocks and the Maitland-Niles, and we're seeing the Martinellis and Sakas and Nelsons. We're not really seeing a beast of a defensive midfielder or a beast of a centre-half, and that, for me, is quite disappointing. I'd love to see that come through. I think we have to be realistic. I don't think they're all going to make it, and I still stand by it that these three are going to be special for us: Guendouzi, Saka, and Martinelli.
Fair play. Scunny.
I have to agree with Dan, you know, especially with the three that I mentioned with Nelson, AMN, and Willock. I'm the same with them. I feel the same way as he does, so I won't go into it too much. But it's... yeah, I agree with him as well. Like, we don't see these centre-backs, you know. That's the issue that I'm finding. We're not seeing these big centre-backs or even a decent centre-back youth player that looks like he's coming through anytime soon. It's, you know, if you even look to the past, you know, we had Robin Van Persie, we had Cesc Fabregas, Flamini. You know, they're the only ones that I can really think of off the top of my head that come through the youth system that look to be special players, and there's not very many. You don't see many of them coming around at Arsenal.
Centre backs develop later, though, much later. So it's very hard to pull them through from youth and put them into the first team. I mean, even someone like, you know, Manny's favourite player of all time,
Shut the hell up.
Koscielny. Even Koscielny didn't come through out of the second division of the French league until he was like, what, 24, 25. Sacre bleu, Manny. Sacre bleu.
Fuck him. Scunny, go finish what you were saying, man. Fuck you, Max.
I can't be asked. Go on, Max. You finish.
Anyway, I've said my bit. I completely agree with you. I just think it's very hard to develop centre backs out of.
I don't know about that. There has been some good centre backs who are looking youngsters. You know, Umtiti come off the scene quite quickly. He was only a young lad when he first started. Where was he? Marseille? Was it Marseille or Lyon? I can't remember which one it was.
Lyon.
Have we ever bought a centre back youth the whole way through?
No.
We can't think of one.
The only person I think was I was going to say
Tony Adams weren't too bad.
No, but I don't think he come from our youth though, did he?
Tony Adams was, he was 17 and then 21 as a captain, yeah.
No, there you
He's
go,
the only one I can think of, though.
So that probably is the only one.
Yeah.
Man, that was back in the 80s, man.
Yeah.
Jeez, dude. Well, carry on, Scott.
Martin Keown, sorry. Yeah, Martin Keown was another one, wasn't he?
Yeah.
80s as well.
So it was a long time ago. Yeah.
Again, so these are a long time ago. So you do get these centre backs that do come through and they look really good. All right, Umtiti's got bloody glass ankles, so that's another thing. But we need to find these centre backs, and we need to find stuff like this and youth system. So you're not going out and spending the Virgil van Dijk monies and the Harry Maguire monies on centre backs, and that's what we're struggling with. You know, and that's always going to happen. We're not going to be able to afford these guys. If Harry Maguire can rake in 85 million, how much do you think Van Dijk will be worth now?
Yeah, but Van Dijk is actually a good defender. Maguire is
I was on about the money worth, not the actual thing of him.
Listen,
you know, even John Stones has been terrible for Man City, and he cost 50 million.
Manchester United are the best. They're like a fucking sitcom.
But we're not going to be able to afford this type of money. Arsenal are never going to spend between 50 and 100 million on a defender, and this is what we're going to have to do.
Imagine if we did, Scunny, and we bought fucking Maguire, man. Imagine if after all these years, right?
He was good at Sheffield United.
Man, Imagine you're like Arsenal finally gonna spend money on a big dominant centre half and this fucking Maguire, man. Imagine that.
Exactly.
I mean-
You'd be pissed, wouldn't you?
Oh, fuck that, man. I'd be
What a
so
what a great
pissed
way to
off.
finish the pod. Just laughing at Man U, just vigorously.
Yo, they just signed Igalo on loan, man. They just signed Igalo.
I was going to say that on the next one that we're on in a bit.
Mm.
It's funny when you think that you might get Josh King and then you end up with a Igalo on loan, man. What the fuck's going on? Or was it Cavani? Was it Cavani they started with? Then it went to Josh King, and now it's gone to fucking Igalo.
They've gone from Luka Jovic to Cavani to Josh King to fucking Igalo, right? Who just come from Shanghai Shenhua. We don't even know if he's.
You want to know the really sad thing? We got
Yeah.
Mustafi.
Man,
No, we haven't. He's injured.
We bought Mustafi.
Yeah, but he was
People listen up.
35, not 85.
Yeah, but still, every time I
we're gonna-
laugh, my heart sinks, and I just think, yeah, but we got Mustafi.
And we paid
Come on,
50
man.
million less.
and we think laugh at people, man. That's how we get our entertainment in. You know what I mean?
Yep.
We got to look at it and go, go for what's his name? Gideon or Gideon? I don't know. Man United. You got to look. Listen, we're gonna end it on that, man, because as bad as for us, we still have time to laugh at United. That tells you everything you need to know about how far they've fallen. So, boys, Brexit's around the corner.
4 minutes away.
This country's fucking stupid. I hate all you dickheads. Fuck all you cunts. I hope you burn in hell. Right? I hope they stick you in the redneck side of hell as well. All right. Fuck all of you lot. Potts, thank you for joining me, bro.
Been a pleasure. Been a pleasure. man.
Everyone get your serious hat on. We've got to go on to same old Arsenal in a sec, so I'm just going to get my serious hat on. I need to get my fucks.
Yeah, no more
Fuck,
fucks and cunts.
fuck, cunt.
Get it out
cunt.
while you
All right.
can, yeah.
Well, you
All
can't
right,
swear
stiff
on me.
joke.
No, you can swear on there, man.
Just not with the
like
same
the Arse
amount of
Bros
venom.
way. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't look deep in the camera and just be like, "You're a cunt."
Well, I'm not gonna
Don't do that again.
Oh,
you look even
jeez.
worse doing that. I thought you was an AIDS victim. Fuck, you know.
Wait, I can match. Let me match
Man,
the
you can
avatar.
swear. You can swear.
Actually-
You can swear. You know you can swear.
match it. No, just forget it. Just forget it. But yeah, so yeah, we're gonna just jump on a fucking same old Arsenal. Like I said on top of this, man. Fuck you, Brexit, and all you Brexit voters. If you're a Brexit voter and you're watching this, I hope that somebody sticks a spiked dildo up your fucking ass and rips your spleen out.
I would have voted for Brexit. I would have voted for Brexit.
And this is what I'm gonna-
Conservatism. Make England great again.
This is why I'm gonna break your fucking jaw, you prick.
Yeah. well,
Anyway,
fucking come over here, bro. Get on a plane. I'll show you the snakes and the crocodiles and the sharks. They can bite your black ass.
no. You keep me away from all the snakes and sharks, man. Having to deal with you is bad enough. But listen, man. Love you, fuckers.
All right, bye.
Latest.